Public question time. Well, we do have a series of questions posed by the public, and written responses have been circulated. Due to the number of people who have raised questions and the number of questions also, what I'd like to do is to I'll ask each resident concerned to come up and ask 3 supplementaries to allow the next person on the list to come up, and that way everybody will have a chance to ask a supplementary question. I think that's the fairest way to do it. Given the 30 minutes that we've got, and we've got 31 questions, so I just want to try and get through as many as possible. Is the committee happy for that? Okay. In which case, could I please take first Mr. Amar Nafi?
In response to my question about...
sorry, do come up to the table. Just a microphone there for you as well.
Okay.
Thank you. So you've asked 2 questions in total, so for each one you have a supplementary question to ask for.
Thank you very much. With respect to my first question about who else has negotiated for redevelopment of Pavillion Way, although I'm unsure about what the term initial appropriate party means, I'm fully aware that over the last 10 years, multiple individuals have approached the council and asked explicitly to redevelop the area for the purposes of sport. I know that Nick Cook, who runs a football agency, is one of them. Terry Revel, a local small business owner, has also approached you. And I hold in my hand an email from the chairman of BORFC, Mr. Markov, who received this response from a council officer. I can assure you that we have, with respect to Pavillion Way, I can assure you that we are not in contact with any developers. The proposed possible use is internal within the London Borough of Barnet. Should the situation change, I will contact you. Mr. Markov has received no such contact. It continues. Please be aware that bids for this site closed on the 13th of June following advertising. Now, even if I do accept that to be true, and it was reopened in September for Taylor Wimpey, Mr. Markov was not negotiated with in good faith. I would like an explanation for why the individuals in Burntow who've come to the council to use it for sporting facilities have not been dealt with in a fair, honest and appropriate way. People of Burntow want sporting facilities, the children want sporting facilities. Jack Wilshere, the Arsenal midfielder, has said that he wants it to remain open for sporting facilities. Why does the council not?
On the latter part, certainly the question about marketing for land and negotiations, I asked an officer to reply to that. We've got some maybe can answer that. But on the general latter part of your question, what I'd say is that it's not that we don't want to keep the land open for community use. It's just that we as a borough have a legal obligation to provide school places. Okay, we don't have a legal obligation, and actually we don't have as much demand to provide outdoor areas for any purpose actually, whether it be football or anything else in the other community use. I did a Google Earth search of the area earlier today when I was just looking at the site, reading the papers, and there are lots of large areas of green land where football and sports and recreation can take place for free in the immediate vicinity. So this is a balance that we have to take. If you look at the proposal tonight, it is to develop some of the land, and some of the money then that comes from that will be going into building a school. And we are very, very short of school places here in this borough, particularly the west side of the borough. So whilst I appreciate you and your colleagues in the public gallery and the community may want the land for one thing, we as the council have to take a step back. We have to look at what's needed for the purpose of the borough, what is best use of the land, and also our statutory obligations, what by law we must deliver. And school places, fortunately for you, is higher up our list of priorities, and that is the balancing act that we have to strike. So land. This is not about. This is actually not about. This is actually not about money. We are short of land for schools. Full stop. We are short of land for schools. We are not short of land for recreation. We have lots of parks. We're in a green borough. We do have a lot of parks, and particularly in that neck of the woods.
When was the last time we looked in a park?
On the issue of negotiations, I'll ask Leslie Meeks to respond to that. That's false.
Thank you, Chair. If I can just sort of give a bit of history here, the land was originally owned by London Regional Transport.
Please speak up.
Late 7 point, sorry, let me move that. The land was originally owned by London Regional Transport. It was 7.8 acres and it was sold to Lands. Part of the development was that the council took a part of that land and was to provide sports facilities. The council indeed tried this and found that it was unviable because the cost of actual maintenance was so much that we couldn't afford to do it. We actually then took on a tenant, and the tenant found after 3 years that they were not able to do it. So we put it out on the market to try and get a tenant that would be able to put forward a proposal to be able to keep that land running the sports facilities. That was proved impossible. We haven't been able to do that. We then got approached by the Department of Education, who has offered to put a school on there with a sports facility, an all-weather pitch, and to pay for it, because there's much needed school in that area. We then had to go back to Taylor Wimpey, because as we said, land that's now part of Taylor Wimpey and right on that land. So it's not a matter of actually having to go out to market the money. We now have to go back to Taylor Wimpey and start to look at all sorts of things around governance, etc., about how we can now use that land. So part of what we did in terms of getting the best value, the best consideration out of that land, is to put forward this proposal this evening, and that's why we haven't done any.
Can I ask members of the public to allow the officer to finish? She's been asked a question, and I would like her to be able to finish her response.
So we haven't done any consultation because the first part of actually seeing whether this is a going concern is to actually come to this committee with the recommendation. After we have heard what the committee says today, then we will then be able to go out and consult the residents and anybody else that showed an interest in the land.
Thank you for that. You have the opportunity for... I'm trying to ask the resident if they'd like to ask a question, and residents in the public gallery are not doing the residents sat here now any favours. Please can we have an orderly meeting? Thank you. So you have another question, and you're entitled to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you. So in response to my first one, I was given the impression that this is to meet residents' needs. My second question is very much about that. The people of Burnt are dearly in need of social housing. The response to the question I received is basically, you don't know. You can't tell me how much of those housing will be, because it will be decided in the planning process. Now, if we take Collingdale as a very current case study, where the developer can make an argument about feasibility much later on and completely reverse their decision on the amount allocated to social housing, then I have no confidence that Burnt Oak will be able to have anything given to it. If there cannot be a minimum threshold of social housing guaranteed to people of Burnt Oak, then the needs of Burnt Oak residents are absolutely not being met. So my question is, when are you going to stop bullying Burnt Oak and start listening to its residents?
There must be an election around the corner. My response to that is this committee does not concern itself with planning matters, and I certainly will not hear talk about planning matters in this committee. We cannot prejudge the decision.
We're not.
You're only here to talk about money.
I think there are people here who would like to accuse the council of doing things that actually we're not, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you. The next resident of the question was Mr. David.
Is this mic on, or do I have to do it?
So Mr. David, thank you. So if you just press the button, once I've hit you. So
Is it on now?
No,
you've asked.
one spot, the red light will come on. There we are.
There?
It's a bit temperamental. If you press it again, and hope it stays on. There we are. That's fine.
Woo!
So you have 3 supplementary questions.
Brilliant. Fire away. My first question is why Pavillion Way? And why Pavillion Way and why not Colindale? Now, Colindale, as everyone knows, had a massive, had a lot of flats built in, and 39,000 people will be moving into them. Why did we use that land to build a school, and why are we using Pavillion Way instead of there? Because Pavillion Way is down as a sports centre and it's not being used as a sports centre, and I think it needs to be given a chance for clubs like myself, so I'm a representation of my club, but from myself to give them the chance to actually use it and help the community instead of building houses on it and then taking that away.
I think the timeline of the two bits of land that you discussed, David, is just unfortunate timing for that. These things don't come up at the same time. We can make a choice side by side. Plots can come up and become available, and also interested parties become available at different times. So the answer to your question is down to timing.
What about the Peel Centre?
It's certainly not a delivery.
Is that a serious inquiry coming up?
To be honest, I look at that and I think, well, I mean, there's a lot of green space in Barnet, and I think Burnt hasn't been given the chance and hasn't actually got anywhere for the kids of Burnt to actually go around and play some football, play some sport. So really, I think, to be honest, I think definitely we need to consider actually asking the people of Burnt, because I live in Burnt, and I can tell you now that there is nowhere that you can go and actually play football or play sport. And I do think it really needs to be considered somewhere, definitely needs to be built, because if you guys build on Pavillion Way, if you guys can name me somewhere else where we can build that, then I don't know. But there's nowhere else. And I don't know where we can, to be honest.
That's exactly the problem that we face as a council. We are very, very short of land and sites for schools. There are schools that actually...
But I did say sport.
But we have to look at it from a we are not legally obliged, we don't have any duty to provide school facilities not to the extent that is being suggested this evening. We are legally obliged to provide school places. School places in your neck of the woods are massively oversubscribed, and we need to build the schools. So that's why we've picked that site. And
is it the schools? Yes. What kind of... Because, I mean, you guys are saying that we should be having schools around Burnt, and we do have a lot of schools around there. And is it not that we can kind of use the facilities we've got around there to try and actually help everyone in the community? Because at the moment, I don't think anybody benefits from this. And I think, to be honest, I can't see anybody benefiting from this, especially the sporting side of it. Because you guys are saying that we're going to build a school, and I respect that entirely, because it's something that you guys can say as a council, but what are you going to do to help us?
Good question.
Good question. And we'll just have to agree to disagree there. I think people do benefit from this. I think the school children who will be going to the school will benefit. I don't think that's a small I also think so you also do benefits, and I also think that the people who will be able to use the new all-weather pitch will also benefit. And also the people in this borough who need new homes will also benefit from the new homes. So I think there's three categories of people I can name that will benefit.
For heaven's sake.
To be honest, I mean,
you've asked all three questions, and to be fair to the other people who've asked questions, Mr. David, so I would ask you to take your seat for now. I can't guarantee that, but if people come up and ask the same pointed questions, I can't see why not. But I do have to ask the next person to come up.
Okay.
I'd also like to bring forward item 12 with public interest in Pavillion Way. Is that agreed? Okay, so we'll deal with item 12 now, and we do have two speakers for this item. The first will be Mr. David, who has 5 minutes to...
Is it on?
So David, just have to press the light. The red light will come on like mine, that's it.
That?
Go.
Hello? Can you guys hear me at the back? Yeah! Brilliant! Okay. Bear with me because I'm going to be really precise. My name's Rob. I'm here on behalf of Barnet Rangers. Talking to the people of my club, as well as the people around my area, we came up with something we'd just like to share. Barnet is an area without any such facilities for anyone to play 5-a-side football or 11-a-side football. It has such local fields, it doesn't have such local fields for this to be done. The council are presuming this is right for the community without actually communicating with the people at Burns Oak. We currently train at Burns Oak Leisure Centre. Now, Burns Oak Leisure Centre is very expensive and we struggle to pay this each month. Our club also struggles to pay for the fees for the pitch that we hire off of Barnet at Montrose Park. Now, Montrose Park's the pitch, as a referee myself, I know the pitch is not actually big enough and it's not actually an 11-a-side pitch. We did try to inquire, we did try to communicate with the council about the Pavillion Way to Mr. Paul Gattrell. Now, as I understand it, Mr. Gattrell has left the council under circumstances I'm not aware of. We tried to contact and inquire about the local landlords, but have not been successful. Other clubs and other football coaches and stuff have tried to do the same. And Mr. Orico in March 2009 tried his best to help out in the Pavillion Way. Now, the council removed his goalposts and disregarded his help. It has taken so long for the council to actually try and make a decision about this ground since 2003. It has been a sports ground and the council should not be trying to make it a school when it's down as a sports ground. Myself and other members of Barnet Rangers, along with Andrew Dismal and some other people, went down to Pavillion Way last week. Now, even though it's dirty and inactive, and the condition of it is absolutely poor, we arrived to see several people playing football on the actual ASHRAE turf that is there. It has a tyre and an airplane seat on it, which is ridiculous. The people need a football ground to be fixed up. We don't need to be having schools that we don't know that we're going to get access to with the sports ground. We need the council to support us in matters like this and not their disapproval. We are a new local club. Barnet Rangers has only been formed since May. We deserve a say, we deserve to be heard and considered. As well as the club secretary, I'm a qualified referee. The grounds around Burnt Oak, Edgware, Colindale, most of Barnet are actually appalling. Wouldn't it be nice for people to say, wow, look at that pitch down in Burnt Oak? Because I can tell you now, I go out to quite a lot of pitches and I actually say that, but I've never actually said that about one in Barnet. As well as, it would be really, really nice for me to go around to my clubs, my teams, when they come to training, and then go, okay, well we have change rooms now to actually change, instead of getting changed in the freezing parks. I hope this has made you guys think about how you guys can help clubs like myself and other people in Barnet. Thank you.
Just think, if you'd like, you can sit here. We might have some questions for you. You don't have to answer them, but we might have to. I think Councillor Davies got a question for you. Thank you very much for that speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Firstly, I just want to say it's great that you're here. It's great to see somebody who is, your age.
Young.
Yeah. I'll be like a younger than me, right? So it's great to see someone who is young and who has got the confidence to come up and speak to the committee. So first of all, thank you for being here. The question I'd like to put to you, you mentioned that there are issues with affordability on the current pitches that the leisure centre you're using, and then even paying the rents on the spaces you were trying to get from the council. How, given those constraints, how would you suggest that your club would have made a viable, proposal for the Pavillion Way site, which would have required a lot more investment than I imagine the fees you're currently paying for renting existing pitches?
Well, I don't think it's only for I think the key that I wanted to point out was that it's not only for Barnet Rangers to use. I mean, as much as I'm here today, I'd like it for Barnet Rangers to use, but it's for the community around us as well, because not everyone in Barnet is a very poor area, and it doesn't have as much money as, let's say, I don't know, Hendon. But I do think that it would benefit the community more than anyone else, and I think we need to be taking that into consideration rather than just my football club.
Yes.
As you mentioned, thank you again for coming to the committee. As you mentioned before, the current site is probably derelict. I think it's probably a good word to use there. As was mentioned earlier on this evening, the proposal is to have an all-weather pitch on the site that'll be available for hire. I can't tell you what the price of that is. I don't know, but is that not beneficial to you that someone is coming, putting in an all-weather pitch that you can use? I can't imagine you use it during the day because you'll be at school when people when after school and weekends when the school's not being used, it'd be an ideal facility for you to use yourself and for the community as a whole to use.
Yeah, I can see that to some extent, but the only thing with the actual the place, I don't think there's any proposal for it to be actually made with AstroTurf. Now, to be honest, I don't know many football clubs that train on grass for a training session. So unless you're putting an AstroTurf pitch in there, a pitch suitable for under 13s and a pitch suitable for under 16s, which they are two different pitches because the goal sizes are different and stuff like that, then I can't see you making houses, a primary school and a big enough sports centre for my clubs.
Can I just say on that point, these proposals are going to go out to the public, so you will have your say. If it's a certain type of pitch or a certain type of use that you want, then you will have the opportunity to actually put that in. But the point that Councillor Ramsey is making is that without actually developing the land in the way it's proposed here, we will have the money to actually make this pitch. In the first place.
That's going to be my point, that this is also going through a consultation and planning process. Yeah, exactly. We'll have plenty of opportunities to meet with developers, meet with the school to try and influence them as well as you had this evening to try and get the sort of pitch that you'll be looking at, beneficial to the community as a whole.
Well, I mean, it's not only, to be honest, it's not only my football club that I can tell you now, if such facilities as you guys are saying that's going to be built, it's not going to be only my club that's going to be interested in it, because people want good quality stuff. And in Burnt Oak, I don't know if any of you have actually been to Burnt Oak, it is terrible. It's not nice. And to be honest, I mean, when people most say to me, okay, what have they got in Burnt Oak for us to do? Whether it's me after school, whether it's me playing football with my mates, there is nothing. And I think, to be honest, I've got to look at that and say, yeah, you guys are half trying, but you're not actually listening to what we actually, the community wants as a whole. Because my football require under 13s and under 16s. What if, let's say for example, Belmont United, but they have a lot of ages. What if they wanted an under 9 pitch and under 10 pitch? Where are you going to fit that if you fit a primary school there? Plus, I think we're missing the point. It's meant to be a sports ground.
Exactly.
Councillor Davey.
And just, you mentioned your clubs had set up quite recently, if I remember that correctly. Just for my interest, when did you sort of give your interest in the Pavillion Way, as an individual, your interest in the Pavillion Way site start, or when did you start to learn more about it?
Well, I played for a football club called Edson Youth, and that's another one local to Burnt Oak. Now, Edson Youth don't have the age groups I have, they have different age groups. So, in a way, both of us are helping people in the community of all different ages. Now, Pavillion Way has the nickname of the Old Edson, because previously it was owned by Edson. Now, I've always known the Pavillion Way was there. I actually walk past it quite a lot. I've seen it there, I've seen it from when I was little, when I would go on the road, and I would think, what is that? I didn't actually, to be honest, for a long time, I didn't actually know it was a sports ground until I actually asked people and tried to research myself. I don't play football anymore, and as I made as club secretary, I always wanted, from when I was young, I always wanted to be like in charge of a football team, whether it was Tottenham Hotspur or Barnet Rangers. Now, I always wanted, I do sport, but all I just think, to be honest, me, and this is my personal thing, I always wanted a ground, and I always wanted the people of Burnt Oak to be proud of something. Now, we haven't got that, and we need that. And I don't know if you ask me, I know we need that. if you ask people about that, I think they'll say that as well.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. I think the one remark I would say is that we did have a stadium that was crumbling, and we brought in investments through Saracens, and that's being used actually for a very
And that's been very positive.
It's been very positive, and this is the sort of thing, scheme, on a much smaller scale of course, but this is the sort, we want this to be something that we're proud of, that you will use. We're not trying to do this in a way that, well, we've also, in other parts of the borough, tried to look at pockets of land and see where we can get that compromise. So there's a lot of balancing acts, as I say, that we as a council have to strike. But thank you very much for your contribution today. There will be other opportunities through the planning process, through the consultation for this land going to market. You will have to, but I really thank you for your constructive contribution this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I was about to start, before I started speaking, to say it's hard to follow such an articulate, passionate advocate, both for sports facilities and for his community. I'm asked to speak this evening because I'm deeply concerned about the disposal of this piece of land. It's situated on the borders of Hale and Burnt wards and at the heart of a community that quite frankly needs its community support and community facilities enhanced and not sold off. This property, this proposal to sell part of the site for housing, reportedly at the luxury end of the market, and the long-term leasing of the rest of the site to a specialised free school, is being taken forward at the same meeting as the outline business case for sports and leisure strategy, which shows that Barnet comes a dismal 23rd out of 33 London boroughs for sporting activity among adults and young adults, as we've seen tonight, and below the national average amongst children and young people. And yet here we are, instead of harnessing potential funding from Sport England and a palpable community will and energy to put sports provision exactly where it should be, in areas of need, instead we are seeing the selling off and the squandering of that opportunity. There is a covenant for sports provision on this site, intended to protect access to the site for local people. Do you intend to ride roughshod through that covenant to the detriment of local people? It will not be the first time, sadly, and you have faced legal action in other cases. What legal advice have you taken that gives you comfort that you can do this? That you can break a legal covenant? What are the risks and the potential costs of legal action? I see from the website for the school, hoping to occupy the site, that they intend to open in September 2014, just 9 months away. So I'm not sure what assurances you've given them. I am concerned that there have been a number of community groups interested in providing sports activity on this site over the past several years. Could I ask, were there any of the community proposals for the site, or there have been community proposals for the site, and whether they have been fully and properly considered, and why they haven't been supported?
Yep.
There's a real concern locally. You claim within the paper that sports facilities in the school will be available for the community out of hours. But there have been so many cases where this just has been promised and where it has just not proved to be the case. It either hasn't been a practical reality, or the charges for access to that provision have been too high to make it a realistic alternative to a dedicated community sports facility. What guarantees can you give on this? How will community access be set in stone? What real assurances can you give the community about this, that long-term affordable access will be available for proper sporting facilities on this site? It seems to me that an opportunity to support this community is being missed. But even if you were minded to sell part of the site for housing, why were you not ensuring that there will be a mix of affordable housing affordable to local people at a time when there is a chronic shortage, and when the supposedly affordable housing that's been built in the wider area, such as Beaufort Park, is being eroded by rocketing service charges and escalating rents? So I ask the Cabinet members, have you asked yourselves the following questions before you vote to dispose of this site? What legal advice have you received that you can act against the long-standing covenant on the site? And what are the financial, reputational and practical risks in doing so? Have you properly considered all options for community provision? What serious consideration have you given to affordable housing on the site? And how are you going to guarantee affordable and open access to the community sports activities and facilities that this community clearly wants and needs on this site? Thank you.
Before we respond to Councillor Moore's questions, are there any questions for Councillor Moore? Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chairman. What do you say to the Chinese community in Barnet who are looking for a venue for their school, who obviously, I think, in desperate need of a venue? Does the Labour Party have any alternatives as to where they can go in the Borough of Barnet?
I deliberately and specifically set my comments about community sports facility about this area. Hang on, and not about this specific school. I think they've got a very interesting proposal, but whether this is the right site for that school within this community is a different issue. And I think they have a very interesting offer when you look at the website, but it is balancing the needs of two communities.
Chairman, if I may, I think these two areas are linked. I think that you can't say one thing without having an alternative for the other. I think it's irresponsible to come here tonight to not have some different ideas for this important part of our community. And I ask the question again, I think, what do you say to the Chinese community who you seem to be opposing their developments?
I'm not opposing their development, I'm talking about protecting a site for a local community, and the two things are different.
Councillor David.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Moore, you mentioned that there have been lots of community groups over time that have tried to make a viable proposal for this site. Just from my own background knowledge, how many of those groups have you actively helped and supported with their bids?
Those groups who've been around in the area have received a lot of community support and support from Labour Party members and councillors and the former MP during that period. And the reason I commented on it is because you asked a question about how recently Darryl had been interested in this site. But the point is, there have been groups and projects interested in this site for quite a number of years. It's not just in response to this immediate proposal.
Yes, fact.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you. I read, I think it was in the Barnet Times, I apologise if it wasn't, that the local Labour councillor was supporting a power lift type facility on this site. Do you support that with all the traffic noise late into the evenings that comes with such a development?
I made a comment about that particular offer. The issue here is about community sports facilities that are affordable and to support the local community in this area.
Question. Councillor Moore, you make a strong point about community facilities. So if I said to you tonight then that in response to one of your questions regarding how would you guarantee community use, so the free school would have a lease from the council, and within that lease would specify that the all-weather pitch would be available outside of school hours to the community. Is that not something that you would welcome?
If you can guarantee that, and at a price the community can afford, yes. But I'm looking at officers at the other end of the table, and some will know that there was Sport England money went into a school in the East Finchley area, probably the best part of a decade ago. I welcomed that project. It was potentially a sustainable way of using that money in a ward at that point that lacked youth sports facilities and was quite clearly an area of deprivation in terms of youth sports facilities. And I make no judgment about the school or their business plan, but the reality is that that sporting facility is not open access to a lot of local community groups because it actually is not affordable to them. And that's the point when it comes to this. Unless you're going to set a register of charges within that lease, then actually it is quite difficult when you're dealing with a private entity that will be looking at managing its own business plan to maintain its own sustainability. And so I think there's a real challenge there and a tension for the two halves of that community.
Yeah, I think we can say with some comfort, given what's happened at Saracens, we have guaranteed and actually delivered very well community use of that, and we have a track record. So 10 years ago, I think is a good example, and certainly let's do a lesson from that. But I think let's use examples of very near history, where actually we've done it very well. So we can always look back to any event that, yes, that was a bad example. Let's look at good examples of very recent events. So, Councillor David.
Thank you, Chairman. You mentioned, Councillor Moore, the issue of affordable housing. You started off talking about, okay, when you want a community facility. And then you mentioned, you know, we're not sure about the affordable housing. Are you saying then that, in your own opinion, if you were to build affordable housing somewhere, that it doesn't matter what land you're building on, you can build on it if it's affordable housing? And is that the Labour Party stance, that you can build anywhere if it's affordable?
No, not at all. I was merely making the reference to the fact that, like another potential proposal that you had in another part of the borough, a key part of that was actually, certainly one of the bids, was at the luxury end of the market. And that means you'll have a higher gain for that. You'll get more money for that site. And actually there is a challenge right the way across the borough around housing that is affordable to local people, because there are plenty of commercial house building projects across the borough on sites owned by other local people, privately owned sites, where actually that sort of housing is going. But we actually, as a council, hold the ring for a whole range of communities within Barnet. And actually I was merely questioning your issue, the issue of how much benefit there would be to the local community from selling on this site.
Any other questions?
Councillor, have you actually read the report before us tonight? Because in it specifically talks about benefits in terms of sports facilities to the over 55, something that's come up this evening. And do you support that sort of development for over 55s in Burnt Oak?
I would support sporting provision right the way across the age range, but you've heard from a very strong advocate for the community today who feels that for a range of age groups there is a need for community sports facilities. I don't pick and choose across different age ranges, and I think there will be some good developments going on for 55 plus, as well as a lot of younger people. But that's not the issue here.
Again, Chairman, I disagree. This is providing facilities for a wide range of people. The report quite clearly states this. It talks about how it will be beneficial to diverse communities throughout Barnet who are at this time the facilities are under pressure and need to get back into use. I don't think doing nothing is an option here, and I think Councillor Moore needs to come up with alternatives if she used to sit here and say that we should do this.
And my rejoinder to you is you need to listen to your local communities, because frankly you'll come and stuff.
How long has this site been derelict?
It's not been routinely used for sports provision. It's actually just on the side and it hasn't been particularly well looked after.
So how long? 10 years? So, I mean, isn't it really time to get it back into use?
It is, and you've had a number of community groups over the last 5 or 6 years lobbying you to do just that.
And they've had the money.
We've been waiting for a proper minded on it.
It's at the council that the core maintenance of it can certainly be partially laid at the council's door.
I'm sure, but it's time to bring this back into use.
And the point of issue here is that a site which could be brought back into complete community sporting facilities use is actually being fragmented for a range of other uses, and there's no guarantee of sort of sporting facilities this community needs on this site.
We have to make sure that we do put the correct guarantees in. That's happening.
I don't think in doing that you need to be mindful of the comments made by the previous values.
Very thorough debate on this site, and Councillor Daly, you want to add further?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to talk a bit, because a lot has been made here tonight from people that this is a Burnt Oak residents issue. This is an issue for Burnt Oak. Anyone would think that some Labour activists have been going around Burnt Oak trying to rally the troops. But if you look at the situation of Pavillion Way actually services Hale Ward as much as it would do Burnt Oak Ward. And I haven't had Hale Ward residents who live off of Deansbrook Road in council housing and ex-council housing around me, around Guyfield Road, coming to me talking about the need to prevent this sale. And the only difference I can see between one side of Deansbrook Road and the other side of Deansbrook Road is that there is a different councillor or different set of councillors who could be encouraging certain types of what we need to look at here is the context, because at the moment this has been framed as the loss of a community facility, community asset. This is a derelict site. As the council leader pointed out, it hasn't really been in use for nearly a decade now. Myself and Councillor Rayner have met on the site with people who would want to set something up there, yet it has always fallen down on the viability issue, because there are lots of people who have lots of ideas about what they would like to do, but the practicality of running it, funding it, insurances, who would actually use the site. Let us not forget that there are lots of people who want to manage a five-a-side football pitch or a larger football pitch, but when you ask them who their customers would be, suddenly the idea starts to fall away. So this is something that Hale Ward councillors have been looking at over recent years as well. Let us not be drawn into the idea that this is a burnt-out issue. That is the first point. The second point, Chairman, is that when you look on the map, and it is probably one of the only points I would take issue with what Mr. Davis said. Burnt-out actually has one of the largest provisions of open space. Within a very short distance, within about a 10-minute walk, you have Lyndhurst Park, you have Woodcroft Park, you have all of the area on the Meads, you have the Silkstream Park, you have Montrose Park, and you also have Watling Park. These are all within about 10 minutes of this site, all of which are far bigger in footprint and can be used for recreational activity. So the idea that there is a lack of provision of open or sporting space in Burton really it doesn't hold true, Chairman. I think this is really going back to the idea that you know, in my own view, Labour are clutching at straws. They'd rather have 100% of nothing and say that the council is preventing a community space from being used as a five-a-side football pitch than to accept a deal on the table which opens up, you know, a much better community space, clears up the site, and will allow some recreational space as well. So, as a Hale Ward councillor whose ward adjoins this site, I think it is a very good use of land, and it would certainly benefit the residents in the area who have had to put up with an empty site for far too long and will now experience regeneration.
Thank you, Councillor. I do wonder where the local councillors are. Whether they it would be nice to have had local ward councillors on this if it was such a crucial issue. But thanks very much for that local input also. So there were 3 points raised by Councillor Walker. First, about affordable housing. That is a planning matter, something that we can't determine here. That will go through the planning application process, and we'll leave that process to run. The other being about covenants. We have had covenant issues in the past, and our advice on that has been robust and stood up in court. I just want to check with officers now that we've had advice. I don't need to go into that detail. Have we had advice? And of course, are we able to do what we're doing? And secondly, in terms of leases and guarantees for community use, how much control do we have over that? Once we've signed the lease, can we build that into the lease to the free schools? So the 2 issues, covenant regarding legal advice, and then lease for community use.
So, Chair, as far as the legal advice is concerned, there is
Who's the one leaving at the table? Unless it's in camera, we're not supposed to be here.
It's very detailed legal advice.
Okay, so councillors will be considering the legal advice. It is exempt information, and elected councillors will be considering that in the private session. Regarding these guarantees, community use, those are robustly enforced. And is the Saracens example I can quote quite accurately?
I mean, we've all looked at policies and leasing, how we lease, and we have to go back to the Department for Education and check with them that that would be part of the arrangement that they...
Is that a duck mic, or is it just blinking at me?
Thank you for that. It's a pity that councillors ask questions and then we can't hear the replies. Anyway, can I just ask the committee, I urge you to recommend this report. As the leader says, this is a piece of land where nothing's going on at the moment. It is better that something goes on than nothing. We've got mixed use here. We do need housing there to fund the development. We do need school provision, as I say, in the borough is oversubscribed. We do need to build more provision into the system, and also we'll end up with a sports facility. And I just urge cabinet members for planning, not here this evening, but cabinet member for planning and officers to listen to the community. Those people who came today are invited to consultation events, or certainly the views canvass, so that we can come up with a really good facility that, as we say, Burntown can be proud of, and also the residents of Hayward can also enjoy. Can we agree the report subject to the exempt section? Agreed. Thank you. Okay.